401k advisors want to build a scalable practice, but aren't always sure what to do next. Welcome to Outcomes, the podcast designed to help advisors think, make decisions, and cast a vision to create a business for the future. Here's your host, Ross Marino, financial planner, author, speaker, and CEO of Advisor2X.
Welcome to Outcomes, the podcast. Today, I am joined by Brad Swineheart, VP of Business Development at White Glove. Welcome to the show, Brad.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ross.
We have all gone through disruptions over the last year and a half. There's certain companies, certain groups out there, certain people that really took the brunt of it. Anything that involved entertainment, travel, or in your case, face-to-face meetings really took it hard. But before we dive into what you did as a company to help advisors still continue to connect with prospects and clients, let's go back to the end of 2019. Your company's growing. Proof of concept is well in the past, right? It's working. You're doing great. You bring on venture capital. The company's about to boom. Let's go back to say November or December of 2019. What was going on with White Glove?
Oh, the skies couldn't have been brighter. The ocean couldn't have been bluer. Things were looking amazing. I mean, we really took a very simple concept of advisors need to focus on working with prospects and talking to their clients, and anything else they do is taking away from them growing their business. And that was White Glove's business model, and it was totally focused around in-person seminars. So we went from the basement of two financial advisors. We were founded by financial advisors. We went right from their basement of their office to 130 employees doing close to 800 events a month, just absolutely all across the US and Canada. And life was good. We piqued the interest of private equity here in Detroit, the same company that Dan Gilbert's fund that owns like Quicken Mortgage and Rocket, and the tech stack that we get access to coming into 2020 was amazing. You know, outside of just, capital, they have so much technology that we had access to. So we couldn't have been more excited rolling into 2020 thinking this is going to be, we're going to blow the doors off this place. We're going to be doing 3,000 events a month in no time.
And we were all coming into 2020, if you had a growing business, with visions of grandeur, right? We were growing on our end, Advisor2X. We had new conferences. We were at max capacity for existing conferences. We were launching the Retirement and Longevity Summit in March of 2020. Really excited about it. I had worked on that agenda, that concept, literally for years. A book that I just published that came out a few days ago is basically around what the whole entire conference is about, the retirement and longevity. So we felt the brunt of it. Here you guys are doing, and that number blows my mind, 800 meetings a month. It's a basement story, Brad. I love it, right? Couple advisors. We all love that story in the basement. Hey, we can do this. This actually matters to advisors. The ROI is going to be awesome. Let's go ahead and do it. So now here we are. We're in the beginning of 2020. You hire a new CEO, you're jacked up, you're ready to go, and then March happens. What was that like?
You know, it was interesting. I think White Glove was one of the few companies that, for all the things that went on, and it was a very hard year, we came out of this stronger than we went into it. And when we first started February, we brought in a brand new CEO, Evan Kramer, wicked smart guy. He just so happened to have come from a professional development company who ran millions and millions of hours of webinars training professionals every year. And 2 weeks into his stint here at White Glove, COVID happened. So we were doing 800 events in February or so. We're planning to just knock it out at 1,000 in March, and instead we did 0. And that was Evan's welcome to White Glove. Hey, here's everybody. Welcome to the company. This is what we do. By the way, we can't do that anymore. And it was such a unique position for us to be in because we're very good at finding ideal prospects, finding consumers that need financial advisors' help, and we're very good at getting them to take action. And up until that point, the only action we've ever asked them to take is to drive down to their local library. So with Evan coming on board with that background and that strong webinars. It was a very, I don't want to say easy, but it was a very easy pivot for us. We had staff that were very well trained in talking to the consumer that did that on a regular basis every day, that now didn't have to do that because they weren't booking venues, they weren't doing calls anymore. So what are they going to do? Well, why don't we train them on webinar best practices? Why don't we train them how to run Zoom meetings and big marker meetings? And why don't we do that for the advisor? So now not only can we find that ideal prospect, get them to take action by attending a webinar, but now we also have staff in place where we can run every single one of those webinars for an advisor. Because what we very quickly learned is that not every advisor is comfortable hopping on a Zoom meeting. Not every advisor is comfortable putting on a webinar. And quite frankly, and we've seen it all across the industry, that tech happens when it comes to webinars. You know, there's some very big conferences that happened last year that very reputable sources held on or put on, and they had tech issues. And we knew that we needed to find a way to help advisors avoid that. And we were perfectly staffed for it. So it was kind of this wonderful mix. And on top of that, we had a lot of big goals of things that we wanted to change, things we wanted to improve, you know, integrate some of those new technologies that we had available to us. And quite frankly, in February, we were thinking, how in the heck are we ever going to get to any of this stuff when we are just running full steam, doing 1,000 events? You know, everybody's, you know, just crushing it. How are we ever going to slow down and change something? And, you know, March was scary, I'm not going to lie, but man, did it allow us to come out with a full end-to-end service that we spent a year developing, as opposed to the 5 years it would have taken had we been also doing, you know, 1,000 events a month.
It's fortuitous that you had a CEO that came from that world, that's for sure. And when people are humble, they'll often say, well, you know, I got lucky along the way and that's why I'm successful. I'm kind of a believer that it's better to avoid bad luck than actually be lucky. So as long as I work and I'm doing the right things, you know, we'll get there. So, you know, maybe I'm slower than most people out there. So, you know, my success wasn't overnight. You know, I just keep grinding it out. But, you know, bad luck can take you out of the game. And if you didn't have leadership and you didn't have the capabilities when that happened, you know, White Glove may have struggled because you still need competence. It's one thing to say, hey, let's go tech, but you still have to have competence. That's a skill. So how cool that all of a sudden you had capacity, you had competence, you were able to pivot. I wonder, well, not I wonder, but I know some advisors initially right off the bat, I don't want to do this video stuff. People aren't going to respond the same way. You know, we know how things are going to play out, even though we've never done it before, right? Isn't that the human nature? Oh, Brad, that's not going to work. Right. They're not going to sit on a Facebook Live meeting and there's not going to be ROI like there used to be, but here we are today and ROI happened. So tell us about the early days when you started working with some advisors that may have been skeptical, and it's probably pretty exciting when all of a sudden people logged on and business is happening.
Yeah, it's funny. They really very quickly divided into three groups. I would say the bulk of advisors were just like, I'm going to wait and see what happens. Right. They were in that middle group. I'm going to wait and see what happens. You absolutely had those guys that said, nope, it's not going to work. I can't connect with somebody virtually. I can't talk to somebody virtually. I won't be able to close business. They're not going to be engaged. I'm not interested. And then you had this other pocket of advisors that said, hey, I was planning on getting in front of prospects anyway. I'm not going to slow down. Let me be that guy charging through the forest. And, you know, a bunch of them fell right on their face, you know, learning a whole new thing. And some of them just got scared and stopped at that point. They tried it once, said, hey, this didn't work. And there's others that said, nope, I'm going to make this work. And they really did. They honed their game. They adapted, because it's not the same as a seminar. You know, it's not the same as seeing someone in person, but there's so many other benefits to doing something virtually. You know, when you do a seminar, and advisors often just, they don't think about this enough. When they do a seminar, almost the number one, you know, issue or hurdle to get over is to make your prospects feel comfortable. You know, if they come in and they feel any sort of animosity, if they got their walls up, no matter how good of a public speaker you are, no matter how great your content is, no matter how good your offer is, if they don't feel comfortable, they're not going to do an appointment with you. And that barrier is almost completely gone when you do a webinar. They're at home, they're dressed how they want to be dressed. You can't see them. They know that. they can be right next to their friends and family or whatever. That comfort level is at an all-time high, and they're choosing to hear that information when it's so easy to go do something else at that time. It's not rude to stand up and walk away from a webinar. It's not rude to get on your phone in the middle of a webinar. But if you can maintain their connection, you just did two things that you'd never be able to do in a seminar. One, you got them when they're at their most comfortable position ever. And two, you got them to opt into a time where they could be doing a bunch of other things, and you maintained that attention and you captured what they wanted to do. So those two things alone are very, very powerful in the webinar world, but it's difficult to achieve. And it's impossible to achieve if you don't adapt compared to what you were doing when you were doing seminars. And it's actually really funny, and I think about this now more than I did when we were initially into it, is that when advisors first started doing seminars, we talked to advisors that have been doing seminars for 30 years, and then they say, well, yeah, webinars don't work. But it's really hard to get them to remember, well, 30 years ago, seminars didn't work either. When you first started doing seminars, let's all be honest here, you were awful at it. No one walked up on stage their very first seminar and crushed it and said, oh my God, this is for me, right? You had to practice, you had to get good at it, you had to know your stuff, you had to, try it a bunch of times until you found exactly what was yourself up there. And that's when they saw success. But advisors that jumped into webinars, they would try it once and say, oh yeah, this doesn't work. But they were not committed to that learning curve. And, at the same time, it was really interesting in the industry to see too. At the same time, it felt like every kid who just graduated and still lives in their mom's basement realized that, hey, advisors will spend money on marketing and they can't do seminars. I bet I could make a ninja lead company that has all these promises and do some Facebook ads and drive people to advisors. And there were so many out there. We saw it was just, when there used to be one company, now there was 30. And I think a lot of advisors got burned by some people that didn't quite know what they were doing. They didn't have that experience in the marketing side of it. And I think that turned a lot of advisors off to the whole virtual thing, when they should have really given it a little bit more of a shot.
In the 401k world, there were many meetings of one-to-many, and they were face-to-face. They were enrollment meetings, they were education meetings. In the financial planning world, they do dinners, they do public library type meetings, which you guys have done. Those were popular. So if you ask me 18 months ago about doing an online meeting through Facebook or something else, I don't have experience with it. At that point, I don't realize that any client who has grandkids now knows how to use Zoom, right? So they all know how to do it.
They all do, yeah.
Right? Had a call yesterday where it was this person complaining about the tech, saying, I don't know how to work this stuff, and then literally rattled off the 5 steps he had to do in order to find out if his camera was working with Zoom. And I just started laughing. Like, here's a guy saying, I don't understand this stuff. Well, I went here and I clicked this and I went to the settings. And I went over there and I looked at my camera in the drop-down menu. I'm like, this is awesome. It is a different world now. So my perception of online meetings, video one-to-many from 18 months ago has definitely changed to today. And that's because people receive it differently. So I'm wondering if going forward, because it's almost anonymous to attend a meeting, other than seeing my name and email address, you're really not making much of a commitment. It's as easy as it gets to check somebody out. I'm wondering if the online meetings will actually access more people, higher numbers, and maybe you don't get as many prospects percentage-wise, but the absolute number, if I have 50 people listening to my online meeting instead of 20 sitting in a library, I'm thinking I might come out ahead. Do you think there's going to be a shift where eventually this will actually be even more profitable for advisors?
I think, there's going to be that the pendulum's going to swing back the other way for a little bit, but ultimately we're going to find a happy medium. And there's always going to be people now, ideal prospects for an advisor, that do not want to go to an in-person meeting. They just don't. We just told everybody in the nation that you can work from home, you can do everything, you can learn anything you want virtually, you can order anything you want, you never have to leave your house, and you can do it all in the comfort of your pajamas if you want to. And there are absolutely going to be people that still embrace that, even when they're able to go back to libraries, community centers, dinner events. when they have that option of, hey, do you want to get in the car, get dressed, drive down to the library, sit there for an hour, drive back home, or do you want to log on for 45 minutes and watch it here? You're never going to capture your entire audience unless you start offering both. And I totally believe in that pendulum swinging back the other way as people have been cooped up. They've been, at their house, zoomed out. They want to get out into the world, and that may or may not have a good benefit on seminars again, as those start opening up. More people will want to go to those. I know that the desire for financial education right now is almost at the highest it's ever been, with all of the changes, with all of the potential changes. Nobody has any idea what's going on, and they all want education, not information, when it comes to their retirement and all of those ways to get to that destination. But I do think that the advisor that recognizes now that, hey, yes, the stuff we did very successfully in 2019, that is very slowly going to come back, but they don't discard the things that were very efficient that they found worked in 2020. When they marry those together and they have that mix, those are the advisors that are going to see the most success. Because if you're not doing both, you're leaving something on the table. And if you're not comfortable meeting your ideal prospect virtually, then you have to be comfortable with them meeting somebody else virtually, because there absolutely will be that person that will never go see you live. They only want to do it, Zoom interactions, which is really interesting too. And to the ROI and, does this work? I was just on a group call with a bunch of advisors yesterday, and, one of the advisors that's done seminars with White Glove for just years, he just said that he got a $7 million client that he's never met. And it's almost bizarre to him, but it was a webinar lead in a different state, and met them completely virtually a bunch of times, and they didn't want to meet. They didn't want to be in person. And now they brought him on as a client. And success stories like that we hear all the time. So advisors just have to realize that, yes, there's going to be both now. It's going to be in person, it's going to be virtual. And the benefits to virtual, outside of what we were talking about earlier, is there's no backyard. There's no I can only market 15 minutes away from my office because otherwise people won't drive, right? You can have an advisor based in Minnesota doing events in Arizona or Florida or California and working those leads and prospects virtually and still closing business. And the advisors that can master that not only are going to free up their time and availability, but they're going to see growth with a heck of a lot more flexibility in their life.
Yeah, there's going to be opportunities for sure, whether it's in person, whether it's virtual. As I listen to you explain both aspects, I certainly agree that doing both sides or both types of meetings is going to be beneficial. But I'm a mature advisor, so I have a mature practice. 20 years ago, I'm with you completely. Let's do both of them. Once your practice is more mature, you have the option of saying, I'm only going to do what I'm most comfortable doing. And ROI isn't necessarily all driven by financial metrics. So some people may like the stand up and live, and that's all they want to do. That's cool. Maybe they just want to do virtual. That's cool too. I was certainly more convicted 15, 20 years ago on many aspects of this business than I am now. Because if you're running your own business, do it the way you like to do it. As long as you're connecting with people and taking care of them, that's great. I'm all in on the digital side. I think the pitch for digital, for evergreen content, the ability to constantly produce stuff, I think the upside that is absolutely massive. I also know that retirees love to go out. They want to get out of the house. They want to come to the office for a meeting. If they're private wealth clients, I want to do Zoom with them. But they want to come to the office because that's what they're doing that day, right? That's their day planner sometimes.
That's right.
That's the
right.
day. Right,
We're
so
going to
there's
get
other
coffee.
dynamics.
We're going to hit the store. We're going to go see Ross, and then we're going to.
And that's how they do it. And that's okay. Yeah. So I think in the employer sponsored market, in the 401k world, I think video is going to skyrocket way more than it has in the past, even though in-person will have value. On the private wealth side, I think advisors will go where they're most comfortable. I think the video, the fact that you guys pivoted there and you have the digital services, I think it's a game changer. I think the advisors that adopt that are going to dominate. in the coming years. And I don't think other advisory firms will be able to catch up. Once you have that first mover advantage of massive evergreen content, I think you're ahead of the game. But doing the meeting is just part of it. There's other aspects that go along with it. And as a company, you guys figured out, well, if they want to do a live meeting over the air, they probably need other services as well. So can you just briefly touch on what else White Glove added so advisors kind of have a one-stop shopping?
Absolutely. So we very quickly realized, and this was kind of our realization back when we started White Glove, is that advisors, there's certain advisors out there that are great. They know exactly what they're doing, but they could always use help on what's working today. And then, especially when we transitioned to webinars, we realized we really needed to add in more support of how to do those effectively, how to close business virtually, how to run a webinar effectively, what questions you should ask. So the first thing we did was we added in a virtual training platform called White Glove University that you don't even have to use White Glove to access it. You can just get in there and learn exactly how to make a high converting webinar. You can learn how to craft your presentation. You can learn how to do robust follow-up. And quite honestly, we don't make any money on it. Everything that we get, it pays for itself, is the fee for that, but it's an entire year program that you get access to. And there's even levels where you can get personal coaching from seminar masterminds in there. But the first thing we realized is, well, let's just support our advisors. Let's make sure that they have the tools they need to be successful, whether they use us or not. But then we realized that advisors, whether it's in person or webinar, one thing that has always been a struggle is you take 40 registrations, 20 households show up, 10 of those book an appointment, 2 of them become clients, advisor's happy, positive ROI, let's do another seminar. Well, what happens to those 38 other households that had an interest in that topic? That light bulb might not be on today, but what about 3 weeks from now? What about 6 months from now? How do you stay in front of that prospect so when they do have questions, you're the only one they think about? So what we did was twofold. First, we invested a ton of time, effort, energy, and technology into our social media management nurturing program. So that's Social Connect. That does Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. It does email campaigns for nurturing. It does website updates, and it's all run by White Glove. An advisor can have a robust virtual presence, virtual credibility. What we call the new handshake is to be able to be found and stalkable online in a very credible way. White Glove does that for advisors totally hands-free through our Social Connect process. And that's a year-long thing. So if you got leads from 2015, we put them into that system. We make sure that they see you on social. They can start getting your emails. They can interact with you in Facebook Live. We do all of that for the advisor. The second thing we really saw needing for an advisor was immediately after the event, some very action-oriented drip campaigns and nurturing for those registrants. So we actually built a full CRM that's email, text, and phone calls to encourage registrations to book with the advisor. And that's totally free when you do an event with White Glove.
Those are the extra services that I think are so critical. And we're focused on that on our end. One of my annual objectives, instead of annual goals, I do annual objectives. I'm an OKR person. And one of the objectives is build scalable businesses by leveraging technology and outsource partners. Because if it's something that involves a lot of work and any specific skill, most of the time outsourcing versus trying to create it internally, right? There's no way. And then I have to ask myself as a business owner, do I actually care to build that competency? Do I want to replicate what White Glove would do or any other company that I partner with? And I think that's the art of business, could monologue on it forever on. It's the partnerships that really 1 + 1 = 3 or more, right? That's the magic of business that we have to figure out. Some people like to build their own, go for it if that's what you want to do. But having you guys add all that, I think makes a big difference. It is all turnkey. So I think you're positioned well from what I've seen. Been a fan from day one. We all love the advisors who look up and say, you know what? We do this for ourselves and it's pretty cool. Let's go do it for other advisors. I mean, who doesn't love those stories in our business? They're great stories and it's instant credibility. And that's helped with the white glove message, I'm sure. You're much more approachable when we realize you didn't come from some other industry and just all of a sudden said, hey, we can do this for advisors. It's like, no, this is an in-house solution, right?
And how lucky were we that, the founders are still acting advisors, and they were right there with us in February last year when we got a new CEO that, I know businesses, I know how to train on webinars, I know how to do this. And then you also have two guys that have been advisors for 30 years doing things very successfully. Not only did we get their insight, but we made them try a bunch of stuff. They have a bunch of, we made them try everything. Before we ever roll anything out to the public, we run just a battery of tests, and we make them just run it all for us and to see if it works. So, and that's really exciting because they were on the fast track too. We just launched 2 new services that really tie in with the other ones that we're doing. One is direct introductions. We're calling them one-on-one workshops, where it's just like this. It's a Zoom meeting. An advisor shows up. There's an interested prospect that's going to talk to them for 30 minutes. And White Glove does absolutely everything before that. We market to them. We qualify them. We engage with them. We send them a video of the advisor. We do a warm introduction on the meeting. And we put all of that directly on the advisor's appointment, and on the advisor's calendar, just like everything with the host with White Glove. If they don't show up, it's totally free for the advisor. So we see that service is just this magical mix, or it fills this gap of people that maybe aren't comfortable with webinars. They're not seeing success there, and the in-person's not available in their area. Or maybe they just want an extra 5 appointments a month and they don't want to hassle with chasing leads. That is really exciting. And then one other thing that we're doing to help build credibility and branding for an advisor is turnkey podcasting as well. Because as you know, and I know, podcasting is an amazing channel for building credibility, building followers, and letting people see your authentic self, which is so important to being an advisor and actually closing clients.
Yep. I'm going to say letting people see my authentic self is going to be the most important aspect, because that's where people connect. And, like me or don't like me, you get to know when you do the podcast, and that's what you want. So they know this person's approachable, but you actually included the word magical in there. So you know where I have to go with that. So you threw it out there, Brad. We got to do it. Here it is. The final question. It's the magic wand that I snatched from my daughters. If I let you wave it, you could change anything in the world. What would you change?
I think if everyone just operated with an abundance mentality, be more giving, say, hey, you know what, there's enough for everybody. Let's help each other out, and really proceed with empathy above all else. I think there's enough information. There's enough issues we could disagree on. But if we just focused on empathy and an abundance mentality, that would make everybody's life better. And it would personally probably make you happier. That's what I would change. Just add in a little bit more of that. Even a dent would make the world just a better place.
I agree 100%. Brad Swineheart, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening to Outcomes. Subscribe now to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Advisor 2X. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.
Shaping Change by Ross Marino and Susan Bradley.
Well, I've really lived the whole theme of the book. Any advisor will tell you they've seen clients go through this, where they have plans one day, you wake up the next day, and the plan is scrapped because life happened and the plans need to change.
Get your copy of Shaping Change by visiting shapingchangebook.com.